Welcome back, friends, to Build a Lot Acres. My name's Case. In today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be giving you a real-world example of just how much money you can save with one of these bandsaw mills. Stay tuned. It's a cold one this morning, friends. 48 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be about 8 to 9 degrees Celsius. So I can definitely tell a difference in the air temperatures. Fall is on the way, which means I'm going to be burning wood before you know it. But in today's video, we're going to be focusing on this building. This is going to be an open air structure, 12 feet by 24 feet, with an 8-pitch roof, no walls other than the tops of the gables. And I'm going to give you a price list, and we're going to see just how much money I'm actually going to save milling the lumber for this building versus buying it. So let's go up to the house, warm up, grab a coffee, and I'll see you guys in a minute. All right, so first let's take a look at the side view of what the structure is actually going to look like. You can see we've got the 8-inch concrete slab, the 8-inch corner posts, the 6x6 Y braces. We're going to have that big carrying beam, 24 feet long. And then you got, of course, your rafters, ridge pole, fascia board, rakes, which are going to be built out rakes to give it that little extra weather protection. You also got the purlins across perpendicular to the rafters. So now let's look at the end view of what the building will look like. Again, we got the concrete slab, the 8-inch corner posts. It's going to be metal brackets connecting the post to the slab. We're just going to have our joist going across, connecting the rafters, sitting on top of those two big beams, rafters, and then we're going to have some 1-inch thick boards for the top of the gable. So that's what our building is going to look like. Now, of course, this example is for this particular building, but you could use this for anything you're building. It could be a garage, barn, a shed, playhouse, garden raised beds, anything of that sort you could figure out yourself. Now that we know what the building is going to look like, let's see what it would cost with store-bought materials. Now, of course, I'm using rough sawn. A lot of the stuff I'm making, you really can't just go out and buy. It would be special order. So I've made the closest things you can get commercially at a place like Home Depot or Lowe's or any lumber yard. And I compared that to what I'm actually building. So you can see I listed everything out. I listed what it is, how much each one is, how many I need, and then the total price. You can go down through the list and you can see that the total comes out to $3,136, but you have to include mass sales tax, which is going to be different depending on what state you live in or what country. In Massachusetts, which is one of the most expensive states to live in, it's 6.25% sales tax, which brings our grand total out to $3,300. I know some of you were probably thinking you could have done that cheaper with true rough sawn rather than buying commercial lumber. So for you guys and girls, I actually did figure out a rough sawn list as well, which we can see here. This is all much closer to what I'm actually going to be using because this is rough sawn. And then I figured out how much board feet it is per piece, how many pieces, how much board foot total for each item. And you can see at the end of the day, I need roughly 1,600 board feet, which in Massachusetts, which like I said is one of the most expensive states to live in the US, rough sawn lumbers for softwoods like pine, hemlock, fir, poplar, you're talking roughly $2 a board foot. So $3,165. If you have to pay tax on that, you're going to be very, very close to what you would have been with the store-bought lumber. Alright, so I showed you guys a detailed list of what I would need for materials, how many board feet I'm going to need, what it would cost. So what does all that mean? So you saw the two lists I did, rough sawn lumber and commercially bought, store-bought lumber. And they both came out to just over $3,000. And that represents about 1,500 to 1,600 board feet of lumber. So at the end of the day, I'm paying for half of the cost of the mill with that one building, which is only an open air building with a roof only, other than the tops of the gable walls, which are very small amounts of wood. But so it's mainly just the 4 corner posts and the roof structure, and you're talking half the cost of the mill. Now imagine if you're going to do a bigger building, maybe a garage, barn, a shop. You could easily pay for that mill with one large building or 2 or 3 smaller buildings. And the reality is, based on my experience so far, which is very limited with the mill, I'd say put about 15 hours or so in the mill at this point. I think you could probably expect to realistically mill maybe somewhere in the 600 to 800 board feet a day range by yourself. That's assuming you have a tractor or some way to load the logs onto the mill, and that's also assuming you have the logs readily available. Obviously, if you have to start from cutting trees down and you don't have a tractor, things are going to change. Or if you maybe have poor health and you're not able to work full 8-hour days. But I think for an average healthy person, like I said, with a tractor and the logs available, you could do 600 to 800 board feet a day. So that lumber list that I showed you guys, I can mill that in probably 2 full 8-hour days by myself. So in 2 days, I'm milling roughly $3,000 worth of lumber, which when you really sit down and think about it, it's pretty amazing because that's a lot of money to spend on a building, and I'm saving a ton of money. I'm going to pay for that mill really quickly. I know Mrs. Build-A-Lot is pretty excited about it. She's actually watching behind the camera as we speak, smiling away. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video on a real-world example of what you can expect to save with your sawmill. See you next time. For anyone curious about the nice sign here, this was actually made by Sister Build-A-Lot for a Christmas present. And it came out really nice. I think she did it on a nice piece of oak, and it's got some nice colors that really pop, and I think it really came out sharp. What do you guys think?